to Class 1 of English 101. I am so excited to share this journey with you as you begin your studies here at Fruitland. Now, for some of you, you may have already been involved in Fruitland studies for a while, and you're just getting around taking English 101 online. But whichever the case may be, I'm excited to be with you on this course of study, and I'm really looking forward to sharing with you. Now, as we begin with English 101, let me just say that for some of you, this is probably going to be a refresher course, whereas for others who haven't been in a classroom setting for a while, it may be a little more challenging. And yet it is an introductory course to English, and we're going to be basically reviewing a lot of the things that you have learned through the years of your educational experience. And I hope that it's going to be beneficial to you by way of reminder and by way of review, and also by way of preparation as you prepare for other English courses that you will be required in completing your degree here at Fruitland Baptist Bible College. I'd like to begin by just going over the course objectives for this particular course, English 101. And as we look at these course objectives, you're going to see again that a lot of it is going to be refresher and review. And yet, hopefully, we'll go into a little more detail than you've been into the subjects that we will cover. So let's quickly just look at the objectives for this particular course. First of all, we're going to learn the definition of the 8 parts of speech. Now again, I realize for some this may seem to be rather elementary as we go back and review the 8 parts of speech that you have learned and reviewed and rehearsed in so many previous English courses. But again, we want to begin by defining the 8 parts of speech. Then we want to be able to identify the 8 parts of speech in simple sentence structures. We want to be able to take a sentence and to tell what part of speech each word in that sentence is. So we need to understand the definition of the 8 parts of speech in order then to be able to identify words by part of speech in sentence structures. The third course objective is to understand and identify phrases and clauses. Now we understand that there's a simple sentence structure that doesn't contain a multiplicity of phrases and clauses. And then we will have other sentences that will contain clauses and phrases, and we'll be able to understand and identify a phrase and a clause, be able to identify and distinguish one from the other, and again be able to identify the parts of speech used in each phrase and in each clause. Our fourth objective is to practice correct grammar skills, both in writing and in speaking. Now in 101, 102 English, we will not have a lot of opportunity to speak, to be using our speaking skills. Whereas in future courses, you will be using your speaking skills. And one thing that is vitally important, especially we consider the fact that we are preparing to communicate the Word of God. We want to communicate it as clearly, as succinctly, as concisely as we possibly can. And the only way that we can do that, the only way that we can assure ourselves that we're going to accomplish that task is to learn the proper rules of grammar. This also applies to writing, and we will be having writing assignments during the course of 101 and 102 English. So we're going to be combining both the writing and the speaking skills and how to use proper, correct grammar in writing and speaking. The next objective is to learn to express ourselves clearly, vividly, and creatively. I am sure that you have had the occasion to hear different speakers, whether it be preachers or other speakers of different types, and to listen to someone who is able to express themselves clearly really adds to the enhancement of what they're saying. To add to that, a vivid element to their speaking to make things so vibrant and alive. And then to use creativity in our speaking and writing, to be able to use the different parts of speech in such wonderful, beautiful, even poetic ways. And I'm not speaking of poetry in the sense of rhyme and meter and that. I'm just talking about using our English grammar skills in such a way as to provide a creative way of presenting whatever means, whether it be in writing or speaking, to do it in a creative way to capture and keep the attention of our audience, whether it be a reading audience or a speaking audience. Now, those are the objectives that we want to cover for this course. And so I guess we just need to dive in. And when we dive in, we're going to dive in quickly and very, very, very powerfully as we go into a reminder of the 8 parts of speech and how those 8 parts of speech work. And then we're going to get going in understanding all the different 8 parts of speech as we go through English 101. So let's get started. We're going to begin with a review of the 8 parts of speech that I hope is going to be just a quick reminder of how we use the parts of speech and how these words work in a sentence structure. First of all, let's think of the verb. The verb is the action word in a sentence. It can actually describe either an action or a state of being. An action word describes the activity, the action of the subject of the sentence. Example words are to be, have, do, like, work, sing, can, must, and a plethora of others. A couple of example sentences. The dog ran down the street. The subject of the sentence, of course, is dog. And what is the dog doing? Well, the dog ran. The dog ran down the street. We enjoy the Christmas season. We is the subject. Enjoy is the action word. We enjoy the Christmas season. Now, I didn't include a state of being verb here, so let me just quickly give you one of those. I am the professor. It's a state of being. It's showing who I am or what I am. It's a state of being, not an action, not an activity, but who I am. So we've got action verbs and we have state of being verbs. The second part of speech we'll consider is the noun. The function of a noun is to name a person, place, thing, or idea. Some examples of nouns are pen, dog, work, music, town, London, John. In the 2 example sentences, the first is my dog is an English boxer. My dog. Now, if you'll notice there, going back to the verb, it's the verb is. Is a state of being verb. My dog is an English boxer. It's not an action, it's a state of being. It's describing what the dog is. We attend Fruitland Baptist Bible College. We is the subject, attend is the verb, so we is the noun, and then Fruitland Baptist Bible College is the noun in this sentence, and it's a proper noun, so all the words in that particular phrase, Fruitland Baptist Bible College, are all capitalized. And look again at the example words. Now, the word pen is capitalized, but that's only because it's the first word in this statement. Pen in a sentence would not be capitalized. Dog would not be. Work would not be. But then notice that London and John are both capitalized, and that's because they are in the category of proper nouns. And we will talk about different categories of nouns as we go through our lesson today. Now, you'll also notice there that there's a word, work. Work can be a verb or a noun. In the sentence, we work at the mill, Work is a verb. It's showing activity. But my work is to be the professor of English 101. That is a noun. It's describing something. Work as a thing, not as an activity. And we'll have different words that we'll look at and we'll come across in our study in English 101, 102 that are able to be used either as a noun or as a verb or even as other parts of speech as well. The third part of speech is the adjective. An adjective is a word that is used to describe a noun. Some examples of adjectives, as I have here, are good, big, red, interesting. It's a word that just describes a noun in the sentence. That mountain is huge. Now in this sentence, the adjective huge is used as a predicate nominative because it's describing the word mountain. But it is an adjective describing the word. The musical was long and boring. Again, long and boring are both adjectives describing the word musical. So an adjective describes a noun. Then we have a determiner. Now, there are those in English grammars that do not include determiner as a part of speech. And as you will see here in our list of parts of speech, there are 9 instead of 8. I said in my opening remarks that we will review the 8 parts of speech. Now, in most grammars, again, the determiner is not included as a part of speech. But to use it in more modern grammars, in more modern studies of the English language, a determiner is a word that limits or determines a noun. And the words that we see here are a, an, the, to, some, many. And the reason that these words are used as determiners instead of just simple words that give the article of something like a, an, or the is because it also contains words that limit or determine the amount of a noun. So, to, some, or many. Example sentences are, I have watched 2 movies this week. We would like some apples, please. So the word to in the first sentence and the word some in the second sentence are determiners. They limit or determine the noun. Next, we have an adverb. As the adjective describes a noun, it's a modifier of a noun. An adverb is a modifier of a verb, but also of an adjective or an adverb. Some words that are used as adverbs are quickly, silently, well, badly, very, really, and it describes action. My dog eats quickly. It's telling how the dog eats. The dog eats quickly. So it is modifying or describing the action of the dog. The dog eats quickly. So it's actually modifying the verb eats. When he is very hungry, he eats really quickly. Very hungry, that's describing how hungry he is. He eats really quickly. Quickly describes how he eats. So, adverbs describe a verb, an adjective, or an adverb. Our next part of speech is a pronoun. A pronoun stands in the place of a noun or replaces a noun in the sentence. Some examples of pronouns are I, you, he, she, some. A couple of example sentences. December is a wonderful month. It is my favorite month of the year. So if I were saying this in the confines of the paragraph, the first sentence is just a simple statement about December being a wonderful month. But then in the second sentence, it is replacing the word December so that I don't have to repeat that noun again. So December is a wonderful month. It is my favorite month of the year. So it is the pronoun standing in the place of the word December in the first sentence. Next, we have the preposition. A preposition is a word that links a noun to another word in the sentence. Some of the pronouns are to, at, after, on, but. And in this example sentence, we have two pronouns. We went to town on Wednesday. To is the preposition, and the object of the preposition is town. On is the preposition, and the object of that preposition is Wednesday. We went to town on Wednesday. The next is the conjunction. A conjunction in a sentence joins clauses or sentences or words. The conjunctions are and, but, when. I like dogs, but I don't like cats. Jerry likes dogs and cats. So in these two sentences, we're talking about dogs and cats. One is a negative conjunction. I like dogs, but I don't like cats. But Jerry, he likes dogs and cats. So both are conjunctions in the sentences. And finally, we have the interjection. The interjection is a short exclamation, oftentimes followed by an exclamation point. Oh, ouch. Ouch, that hurt. Well, I don't know. The word ouch in the first sentence and the word well in the second sentence are both interjections. Sometimes interjections show emotion or some kind of excitement, and others, as in the second illustration there, well, I don't know. It's just an interjection. It's still interjecting thought into the idea or the sentence. So these are the 8 parts of speech. 9 if we do include determiner in that list. And again, I gave you determiner just because it is included in some of the more modern English grammars. And these are the parts of speech that we're going to be focusing on in English 101. And then we'll go a little more into detail in English 102. In class 1, we're going to focus our attention on nouns, the part of speech that describes a person, place, thing, or idea. So nouns are descriptive words. They name things. As I just said, they name persons, places, things, ideas, and there are several different categories into which nouns are going to fall. As we think of persons, we think there's so many different words, nouns, that can be used to give identification to different people or groups of people. Fireman or firemen, preacher, student, woman, man, child, father, mother, and a litany of other names of persons. Nouns also name places: store, mountains, beach, farm, market, college. Nouns also name things: rock, pencil, tree, truck, tripod, camera, bridge. Nouns also name ideas. Ideas such as justice, faith, hope, courage, happiness. Those are just a few examples of the 4 different categories of things that nouns name. But now let's think for a moment about common and proper nouns. Common nouns name everyday persons, places, things, or ideas. Common nouns are not capitalized unless they are at the beginning of the sentence. Any first word in the sentence is always going to be capitalized, so if a common noun is the first word in the sentence, then it would be capitalized. Otherwise, common nouns are not capitalized. Now, on the other hand, proper nouns name particular persons, places, things, or ideas, and proper nouns are capitalized. So let's think about common and proper nouns. On the left side, the list is common nouns, and on the right side are proper nouns that correlate or coincide with the common nouns. Woman is a common noun. Teresa, she is a woman, but since we're naming a specific woman, a particular woman, then Teresa would be capitalized. Man would not be capitalized, but Tommy, the proper name for a man, would be capitalized. State is not capitalized, but North Carolina, which is a state, is capitalized. A company is not capitalized if it's just a generalization to any company, but a specific company such as Microsoft would be capitalized. A store. Let's go to the store. Well, store is not capitalized because we're not talking about any particular store, but let's take a trip down to Walmart. Walmart is a specific, a particular store, so we would capitalize. Have you been to the restaurant lately? It's not capitalized because we're not talking about a specific restaurant. Have you been to the new Olive Garden in town? Olive Garden is naming a specific or particular restaurant, so it would be capitalized. My wife and I drove to the mountains the other day. Mountains is a general term. It's not speaking of any particular mountains, so it's not capitalized. My wife and I are going to the Appalachians in 2 weeks. Appalachians names a specific particular chain of mountains, so it would be capitalized. I've traveled to several countries outside of the United States, but I'm not naming any of those countries, so countries is not capitalized. I went to England 2 years ago. England is the name of a country, a specific nation, and so it is capitalized. Our teacher was late for class yesterday. Well, that could be any teacher. We're not speaking of any particular teacher of any particular course. But Dr. Stewart was late for class yesterday. Then yes, Dr. Stewart is capitalized because it is proper noun. The river is raging from all the rain. Well, we're not naming a specific river, so it's not capitalized. But we crossed the Mississippi River on our way to Texas. Mississippi River, naming a specific river, is capitalized. So you see the distinction between common nouns and proper nouns. Now there's some words that are always capitalized. These are words or nouns that name religions, such as Christianity, Buddhism, Islam, nationalities, American, Japanese, British, languages, Latin, German, Greek, English, or organizations, American Red Cross, United Way. These nouns are always capitalized. These are considered proper nouns, and they should always be capitalized in a sentence. Now, another category of nouns is concrete and abstract. Concrete nouns are nouns that you can experience, things that you can experience through the 5 senses: sight, hearing, taste, smell, or touch. Abstract nouns are things you cannot touch. It's a quality, a state, or an idea. Some examples of concrete and abstract nouns are seen on these two lists. Concrete nouns are landscape. That's something you can see. Pizza. That's something you can see, smell, taste, touch. Thunder. That's something you can hear, and sometimes it's a powerful boom of thunder. You can actually feel it. Chair is something tangible. You can touch it, you can sit on it. Flag. These are things that you can see or touch or taste or feel or experience in some way. On the other hand, abstract nouns are things that are not tangible, not touchable. Things such as peace, hunger, fear, fatigue, freedom. These are abstract nouns because they're talking about ideas, things that are not concrete, touchable, tasteable. Let's give our attention now for a moment to count versus non-count or mass nouns. Count nouns are nouns that name countable things. Non-count or mass nouns are nouns that name uncountable things. Let's think of a few examples. Some count nouns are things such as pond, flower, bottle, battery, newspaper. All of these are things that can be counted, whereas other words that sort of go along with the words that we just named are non-countable. Words such as water. Now, the pond is filled with water, but you can count pond, but you can't count water. That flower is beautiful. That's a specific flower. It's countable. Look at that beautiful foliage. Well, foliage is uncountable. You can't really count foliage, but you can count flowers. A bottle is countable. A bottle of milk is countable, but milk is not countable. It's a liquid. It cannot be counted. Battery is countable. We can count batteries, but we can't count the electricity that emanates from the battery. So it's a non-count or a mass noun. A newspaper can be counted, but news cannot be counted. News goes on and on and on. So you see the distinction between count nouns and non-count or mass nouns. Then there's the category of collective nouns. Collective nouns name groups, words that stand for an entire group but are generally thought of as singular. Think with me about a few examples of collective nouns. Family. Now, you might know the number of people in a particular family, but it's a collective noun, and it's thought of as being singular. The family is one family. The team. Now, if we're talking about a football team, we're thinking of 11 players on each squad, offense and defense. But when we're thinking about the team itself, it's a collective noun. We're not thinking about any particular member of the team. We're thinking of the team as a whole. The same can be said about committee or furniture or herd or bunch. All of these are plural, but they're thought of as singular because they are one group that contains many or several, but still it is only one group. So these are collective nouns. Now, we've reviewed quite a bit today. We've reviewed all the different parts of speech, and we have given our attention specifically now to nouns and looked at the different categories of nouns. So, in conclusion today, on Class 1 of English 101, let's do just a bit of review. Let's remember that a noun is a word that names a person, place, thing, or idea. Common nouns name everyday persons, places, things, or ideas, and are not capitalized unless they are used as the first word in a sentence. Proper nouns name particular persons, places, things, or ideas, and they are capitalized regardless of where they fall in the sentence. Concrete nouns are things that can be experienced through the senses, whereas abstract nouns name a quality, state, or an idea, and they cannot be experienced through the senses. Count nouns name countable things, whereas non-count nouns name uncountable things, and collective nouns name groups. So that's what we've covered in week 1. Now in week 2, we're going to give our attention to pronouns. As a matter of fact, in weeks 2 and 3, we're going to give our attention to pronouns. And so we'll look next week at words that replace nouns in a sentence and how those work in the structure of a sentence. I want you to make sure you pay attention to the assignments for this week. I've opened a forum, and I would really love for everybody to participate. As a matter of fact, there's a requirement that you participate in the forum. And I want you to note that I don't want this to be a long paper. I want you to just write a few sentences, a few paragraphs about who you are, your name, where you're from, your family, if you're married or single, if you are married, if you have children, what are their ages, just general information about yourself. And I'm doing this in a forum so that everybody can read everyone else's introductory remarks about themselves so that we can sort of get to know each other. Now I realize taking an online course, some of you are never going to be on campus at Fruitland other than to come for graduation, whereas others of you are taking an online course in conjunction with courses that you're taking on campus. But for those of us who are only taking online courses and our classroom is the living room of our own homes or wherever it is that you have your study set up, then I'd like for us just to get to know each other. So if you will take time to just go in, click on the introduction, and write a little paper there in the forum identifying who you are and give us a little bit of information about yourself. And again, we'll be turning our attention to pronouns next week, and I look forward to sharing that with you. You do have a couple of writing assignments, some sentences that I want you to write and send those to me by Moodle. And I would like for you to do put it in Word format if at all possible. And all assignments are due on Monday night following the Tuesday that the assignment is open. In other words, when this assignment is opened on Tuesday, then you will have until midnight on the following Monday to get the material, the assignments turned in. And so I encourage you to try to stay up with things as best you can. Don't fall behind. It's always difficult to catch up once you've fallen behind on anything. So try to stay up with all of our work. And if you have any questions, send me a message by the student portal. Send me an email, and I'll try to get back with you within about 24 hours, if at all possible. Again, have a great week. I look forward to being back with you next week as we turn our attention to pronouns, and I hope you have a wonderful week in the meantime. God bless.